Topic 11. Personnel and Security. Part 2. Employment Policies and Practices. The general management community of interest should integrate solid information security concepts across all of the organization's employment policies and practices. These include information security responsibilities being included into every employee's job description and subsequent performance reviews. This can make an entire organization take information security more seriously. From an information security perspective, the hiring of employees is laden with potential security pitfalls. The CISO, in cooperation with the CIO and relevant information security managers, should establish a dialogue with human resources personnel so that information security considerations become part of the hiring process. Organizations that provide complete job descriptions when advertising open positions should omit the elements of the job description that describes access privileges. In general, information security should advise human resources to limit the information provided to the candidates on the access rights of the position when in interviews. When an interview includes a site visit, the tour should avoid secure and restricted sites because the visitor could observe enough information about the operations or information security functions to represent a potential threat to the organization. A background check should be conducted before the organization extends an offer to any candidate, regardless of job level. Once a candidate has accepted a job offer, the employment contract becomes an important security instrument. Job candidates can be offered employment contingent upon agreement, whereby they are not offered a position unless they agree to the binding organizational policies. Common background checks include identity checks, education and credential checks, previous employment verification, reference checks, workers' compensation history, motor vehicle records. Common background checks also often include drug history, medical history, credit history, civil court history, and criminal court history. Again, employment is offered contingent upon these background checks. New employees should receive, as part of their orientation, an extensive information security briefing. On the job, organizations should conduct periodic security awareness and training activities to keep security at the forefront of employees' minds and minimize employee mistakes. To heighten information security awareness and change workplace behavior, organizations should incorporate information security components into employee performance evaluations. Employees pay close attention to job performance evaluations, and including information security tasks in them will motivate employees to take more care when performing these tasks. When an employee leaves an organization, the following tasks must be performed. Former employees' access to the organization's systems must be disabled. Former employee must return all removable media, technology, and data. Former employees' hard drives must be secured. File cabinet locks must be changed. Office door locks must be changed. The former employee's key card access must be revoked. Former employees' personal effects must be removed from the premises, and the former employee should be escorted from the premises once keys, key cards, and other business property have been turned over. In addition to performing these tasks, many organizations conduct an exit interview to remind the employee of any contractual obligations, such as non-disclosure agreements, and to obtain feedback on the employee's tenure in the organization. Two methods for handling employee out-processing depend on the employee's reasons for leaving. These are hostile versus friendly departures. Hostile departure is usually involuntary and includes termination, downsizing, layoff, or quitting. Security cuts off all logical and keycard access before the employee is terminated. The employee reports for work, is escorted into the supervisor's office, and then escorted to his or her office cubicle or personal area to collect personal effects under supervision, or they are informed their personal property will be sent to them. The employee is asked to surrender all keys, key cards, and other organizational identification and access devices, including PDAs, pagers, cell phones, and any other remaining company property. They are then escorted from the building. I have seen this happen. It is not a fun event. In the case of a friendly departure, the employee may have tendered notice well in advance of the actual departure date, which can make it much more difficult for security to maintain positive control over the employee's access and information usage. Employee accounts are usually allowed to continue with a new expiration date. The employee can come and go at will and usually collects any belongings and leaves without escort. The employee is then asked to drop off all organizational property before departing. In either circumstance, the offices and information used by departing employees must be inventoried, their files stored or destroyed, and all property returned to organizational stores. It is possible that departing employees have collected and taken home information or assets that could be valuable in their future jobs. Only by scrutinizing system logs during the transition period and after the employee has departed, and sorting out authorized access from system misuse or information theft, can the organization determine whether a breach of policy or a loss of information has occurred. There are various ways of monitoring and controlling employees to minimize their opportunities to misuse information. Separation of duties is used to make it difficult for an individual to violate information security and breach the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of information. Two-man control requires that two individuals review and approve each other's work before the task is considered complete. Job rotation is another control used to prevent personnel from misusing information assets. Job rotation requires that every employee be able to perform the work of at least one other employee. If that approach is not feasible, an alternative is task rotation, in which all critical tasks can be performed by multiple individuals. Both job rotation and task rotation ensure that no one employee is performing actions that cannot be knowledgeably reviewed by another employee. For similar reasons, each employee should be required to take a mandatory vacation of at least 1 week per year. This policy gives the organization a chance to perform a detailed review of everyone's work. Finally, another important way to minimize opportunities for employee misuse of information is to limit access to information. That is, employees should be able to access only the information they need and only for the period required to perform their tasks. This idea is referred to as the principle of least privilege. Organizations are required by law to protect sensitive or personal employee information, including personally identifying facts such as employee addresses, phone numbers, social security numbers, medical conditions, and even names and addresses of family members. This responsibility also extends to customers, patients, and anyone with whom the organization has business relationships. While personal data is, in principle, no different than other data that information security is expected to protect, certainly there are more regulations to cover its protection. Many individuals who are not regular employees often have access to sensitive organizational information. Relationships with individuals in this category should be carefully managed to prevent threats to information assets from materializing. Because temporary workers are not employed by the organization for which they're working, they may not be subject to the contractual obligations or general policies that govern other employees. Unless specified in its contract with the organization, the temp agency may not be liable for losses caused by its workers. From a security standpoint, access to information for these individuals should be limited to what is necessary to perform their duties. While professional contractors may require access to virtually all areas of the organization to do their jobs, service contractors usually need access only to specific facilities, and they should not be allowed to wander freely in and out of buildings. In a secure facility, all service contractors are escorted from room to room and into and out of the facility. Any service agreements or contracts should contain the following regulations. The facility requires 24 to 48 hours notice of a maintenance visit. The facility requires all on-site personnel to undergo background checks. The facility requires advance notice for cancellation or rescheduling of a maintenance visit. Consultants have their own security requirements and contractual obligations. They should be handled like contract employees, with special requirements such as information or facility access requirements being integrated into the contract before they are given free access to the facility. Just because you pay security consultants doesn't mean that protecting your information is their number one priority. Always remember to apply the principle of least privilege when working with consultants. Businesses sometimes engage in strategic alliances with other organizations to exchange information, integrate systems, or enjoy some other mutual advantage. A prior business agreement must specify the levels of exposure that both organizations are willing to tolerate. In particular, security and technology consultants must be pre-screened, escorted, and subject to non-disclosure agreements to protect the organization from intentional or accidental breaches of confidentiality. If the strategic partnership evolves into an integration of the systems of both companies, competing groups may be provided with information that neither parent organization expected. Non-disclosure agreements are an important part of any such collaborative effort. The level of security of both systems must be examined before any physical integration takes place, as system connection means that vulnerability on one system becomes a vulnerability for all linked systems.